Welcome to this explainer. Today we are going to unpack Zhu Fang's 2010 text, A Prayer for Those Suffering from Illnesses. We're going to be exploring its central and honestly fascinating premise that our physical ailments and life's everyday hardships are deeply, directly tied to our internal state of mind. It's a profoundly intriguing document because it presents this very specific, entirely uncompromising view of human suffering and spiritual healing. So we're going to break down the actual mechanics of this philosophy, analyzing exactly how the author connects our deepest thoughts to our physical realities, and look at the steps the text prescribes for achieving ultimate liberation. Let's dive in.
Okay, let's start right at the heart of the matter with this powerful thesis statement, straight from the text. This immediately sets the stakes for the profound spiritual journey we're analyzing today. And right away, you'll notice there are absolutely no compromises made here. The claim is simple, but heavy. Your consciousness creates your reality. According to this framework, if you are ill, it is a direct result of a wrong consciousness. This is the foundational concept of the whole piece. The philosophy argues that the ups and downs of our lives, our physical health, our daily struggles, they aren't just random accidents of fate, right? Instead, they're crystal clear reflections of our inner world. It's a really bold claim, and it totally anchors everything else we're about to explore.
Part 1. The Confession, the Root of Suffering. Now, what's truly fascinating here is how Zhu Fang establishes the foundational rule of this universe. In this spiritual framework, our mind governs what are known as the three realms. And what that means in practice is that heaven, society, or other people are absolutely never to blame for our physical or life struggles. The speaker in the text actually starts with a deep confession of past ignorance, a time when they simply didn't understand this fundamental law. By placing consciousness as the ultimate overriding rule, the text demands complete, 100% personal accountability. That is a heavy burden to place entirely on yourself, but it's the absolute core of this philosophy. Basically, if your life is rough or your health is failing, this text insists you literally cannot point the finger outward at the world around you.
And it goes even further, emphasizing the reality of divine punishment. In this view, the universe operates on strict, unavoidable cause and effect. People who harbor resentment or constantly complain, well, they are actively sowing the seeds of their own disease. The text asserts that individuals who believe they're always right and who constantly direct negativity outward will inevitably just stay sick. This concept isn't treated as some poetic metaphor either. It's presented as a rigid, inescapable universal law. You will absolutely reap what you have sown.
Part 2. The Mechanics of Mindset, Cause and Effect.
To really explain how this mechanism works, the text gives us these beautiful, highly naturalistic metaphors that basically argue for a form of the law of attraction. Think about it. Just as specific environments naturally draw in specific species, like butterflies seeking out fragrant flowers or fish naturally residing in water, the philosophy argues that different mentalities naturally draw in different health and living conditions. It's a brilliant way to bring the super abstract concept of consciousness directly into the physical world we see every day. The environment you cultivate inside your mind is quite literally the environment you're going to experience in your physical body.
So, we end up with this incredibly stark dualism. Toxic emotions are identified as the direct root cause of disease, whereas an optimistic, open mind serves as the vital catalyst for miraculous physical healing. Notice just how specific these details get. Anger, jealousy, and greed are identified as the direct pathways to a tragic life. But on the flip side, simply shifting to an active, positive attitude isn't just about feeling a little happier. It is presented as the literal physical invitation for miracles and perfect health. It's a total rewiring of how we're taught to approach illness.
So how do you actually achieve that? By committing to these precise sequential shifts in your mental state. When the supplicant does this, they claim a powerful premonition that their disease is going to gradually vanish and a beautiful new life is about to begin. These 4 steps represent the real, active work required by the philosophy. You don't just passively ask for healing. No, you have to actively generate a clear consciousness, settle yourself into a calm feeling, stabilize your mood, and finally arrive at a truly tranquil mind. Once that internal tranquility is firmly locked in, the healing is seen as an absolute certainty. But how does one actually anchor that level of tranquility?
Part 3. The Act of Surrender, Devotion and Spiritual Energy.
Here's where the whole framework takes a major shift, because as it turns out, healing isn't achieved entirely in isolation. The text firmly asserts that distancing oneself from the Creator, the ultimate source of life, is exactly what causes the river of physical health to dry up. This introduces a really fascinating layer to everything we've talked about. While your personal consciousness is the mechanism that builds your reality, that consciousness still has to be tethered to a higher spiritual source.
Without that connection, human vitality simply evaporates, exactly like a river completely cut off from its source of living water. And the level of devotion required here is intense. It demands total humility, asking the supplicant to trade away all of their ego for a promise to be bathed in a spiritual light that permanently dissolves misfortunes and shadows. The imagery used here is incredibly vivid. Promising to be just a tiny blade of grass in the Creator's garden signifies the absolute, total abandonment of personal pride. It's the ultimate ego death, and it's presented as entirely necessary to step into that spiritual light. The whole idea suggests that only by making yourself this small, this humble, and this entirely devoted can you harness the massive energy required to banish darkness and disease once and for all.
Part 4. Visions of the Future. The Utopian Promise.
Looking through the dawn of this new mindset, the supplicant sees these specific utopian realms beckoning them, promising that they'll move closer to this kingdom of heaven with each passing step of their spiritual cultivation. The text moves way beyond mere physical healing at this point, introducing these grand, almost science fiction-esque spiritual dimensions. The 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, and the Elysium Islands represent the ultimate final destination of this entire spiritual journey. Curing the physical body, that's positioned as merely step one on the path toward ascending to these magnificent realms.
And the contrast between our current world and this promised reality is frankly mind-blowing. Think about it. Everything that defines the bitter struggles of the human condition, fighting sickness, aging, even death itself, is completely stripped away. And in its place is this fascinating paradox: a society where nobody possesses anything, yet somehow everyone owns everything. It's the ultimate vision of freedom from the material anxieties that were identified earlier as the root causes of disease, replaced instead by endless spring days and total, perfect communal harmony.
Bringing it back down to a personal level, the healing finally becomes complete, as the supplicant reaches a state of bodhi, or true enlightenment, where their spiritual light illuminates the universe and their mind is entirely pure and overflowing with vitality. This is the grand culmination of the prayer. The transformation from a sick, resentful, struggling individual is totally complete. It beautifully brings those earlier natural metaphors full circle, showing exactly what happens when the garden of the mind is finally properly tended to. They are now deeply rooted, their leaves are lush, and they are radiating a perfect, anxiety-free light. All right, so to summarize the fascinating framework we've explored in this explainer today, the text provides us with a very distinct four-step roadmap that leads straight from the depths of physical sickness to the ultimate heights of spiritual liberation. It starts with confronting your own ignorance, then recognizing that your inner consciousness physically builds your reality, followed by committing to a humble surrender to a higher power, and finally arriving at a state of total enlightened peace, where illness literally cannot exist. It is a deeply structured, completely uncompromising guide to personal transformation.
Now, while this specific prayer relies heavily on its own unique spiritual framework, its core thesis regarding the power of our mindset leaves us all with a really profound question to ponder in our own lives. Even if you step completely outside the theology presented here, the fundamental idea that our mental environments physically impact our bodies and shape our daily realities is an incredibly powerful concept. So think about the mental environment you've cultivated today. What kind of tomorrow are you actively attracting? I'm going to leave you with that thought. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep exploring.